Welcome to the Sleep Story Cabin, a quiet place where your mind can finally rest. Before we begin tonight's calm mystery, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. It truly helps this little cabin grow and reach more people who need peaceful sleep. Thank you for your support. Now relax, take a deep breath, and let tonight's story gently begin. 2 minutes back. The laboratory error that turned time. Back in a remote corner of the country, in a region that looked no different from the outskirts of any modest city, there stood a monotonous research facility. From the outside, it had no distinguishing features. A four-story gray building, a low fence surrounding it, a few trees, patches of untilled soil, and streetlights that swayed gently in the wind. There were no large signs, no striking logos, no bustling entrance gates. The building was as quiet and orderly as the work conducted inside it. In the lowest floor of the facility, down a dim corridor with narrow windows that allowed little light to enter, there was a laboratory. This laboratory specialized in time measurement. Its official name was the Long-Term Time Reference Measurement Unit, though most employees referred to it simply as the Time Room. Inside the time room were atomic clocks, reference oscillators, data recorders, and rows of metal shelves arranged with impeccable precision despite their lack of aesthetic appeal. Every morning at the same hour, the personnel responsible for checking the devices descended into the laboratory, pressed the same buttons in the same order, examined the same screens, and filled out the same report format. The life of the time room flowed with a punctual, monotonous rhythm. No hurried footsteps, no frantic workers were ever seen, only a quiet routine that resembled chronic repetition. The primary duty of the laboratory was to ensure that the nation's official time remained synchronized with international timescales. For this purpose, data from atomic clocks were continuously recorded, transmitted to a central server, and compared with external references at regular intervals. Every day, every hour, every minute, numbers advanced across screens, charts were plotted, minor fluctuations were detected and written into tables. These procedures were repeated in the same manner for weeks, months, and years. The first small deviation. One day, while a technician was reviewing the daily report containing the night measurements, he noticed something odd toward the end of the time series. In the measurement graph, the last rows appeared to show values shifting backward by exactly 2 minutes. It was as though time, for a brief moment, had not advanced forward, but slipped back. The graph's line broke its expected continuity at one point, and after a 2-minute void, it reconnected with earlier values as if the system had quietly rewound itself. At first glance, this seemed like a software glitch. Perhaps the data processing program had temporarily frozen and recorded the values in the wrong sequence. The technician added the following note to the report: possible logging anomaly observed in the night block data. Then he closed the file and continued his daily tasks. After all, small, one-time irregularities were not unusual in laboratories. Some values drifted occasionally, some devices stalled briefly before returning to normal. The next day, no one dwelled on the note. The reports were forwarded to the unit supervisor, given a cursory look, and placed into the binder. The binder was returned to its assigned spot on the middle shelf of the cabinet. The time room continued its silent routine as always. The repeating anomaly. But the anomaly reappeared again a few days later. Once more, at the end of the night measurement block, the time series showed a 2-minute backward shift. The atomic clock data at a specific point seemed to undergo a brief rewind and then continued normally. After this second occurrence, the possibility that the issue was more than a simple software error began to be considered. Still, the first reaction was to inspect the devices and programs. The software team examined the logging system line by line, time tag generation, database indexing, synchronization commands. Everything was documented thoroughly, no conflict or malfunction was detected. Hardware checks followed. The atomic clock's output signal was examined with oscilloscopes. Comparisons with reference oscillators were repeated. Loose cables were checked, power supplies measured for stability. The final conclusion in all reports was the same: System appears stable under external observation. Yet every night the time series regressed by exactly 2 minutes and then resumed its flow as if nothing had happened. The shift occurred within the same nighttime window, never at the exact same second, but always in the same narrow interval. Soon this anomaly became familiar to the staff. Daytime measurements were normal, daytime reports were normal, all comparisons normal. Only the night reports contained a small, narrow block of irregularity. The slow machinery of procedure. To formalize the issue, an internal memo was drafted. It noted that the principle of continuous and uniform time flow had been violated in the night block data. The memo slowly climbed through levels of authorization, each approval taking several days. Some departments asked whether the anomaly affected the national time standard. Comparison tables indicated it did not. The 2-minute nighttime regression appeared only in the laboratory's internal records and did not affect the official time signal distributed nationwide, because that system applied its own filtering and smoothing algorithms that corrected the discrepancy before output. Thus, the problem was classified not as critical, but as an interesting irregularity requiring documentation. It was something no citizen would ever notice, merely a small distortion at the edge of the graphs. The internal procedures required more frequent calibration, comparisons with backup systems, and additional measurements from independent units. These steps were all carried out, slowly and methodically. Additional sensors were installed, extra data recorders added, redundant time references activated. Nothing changed. Each night, the time series dipped backward by 2 minutes, then resumed. The unexplained but harmless gap. Over the months, the anomaly became just another part of the lab's routine. Each morning, the night reports were opened, the expected block of irregularity observed, a note written, and the staff proceeded with the day. Graphs were archived, monthly summary reports were prepared. In these summaries, the anomaly was described as a recurring internal temporal regression of approximately 2 minutes observed during the night interval. Limited impact, not reflected in external time output. Different versions of this line appeared in different reports. Limited effect, no operational impact, technically noteworthy but contained. None fully explained the phenomenon. They only signaled that it was under observation. Outside experts were brought in periodically. They inspected devices and reviewed data for several days. Their conclusions echoed the internal reports. System generally stable. Anomaly appears localized and non-critical. Their reports, too, disappeared among folders and shelves. The time room returned to its routine. The mechanics of the 2-minute gap. After a while, some of the staff began to analyze the anomaly more closely out of sheer curiosity. They plotted detailed graphs, studied the moments before and after the shift, examined frequency components, noise levels, and possible external influences. The anomaly followed a similar pattern each time. First, tiny millisecond-level vibrations appeared. Then a cumulative deviation built up. Then a full 2-minute backward jump occurred. And finally, the system continued from that earlier point, as if the rewound value were correct. It could be interpreted as a software error, but the time tag showed no logical inconsistency. The data truly arrived that way. In other words, for a very brief moment, the system acted as though time had rewritten itself. Outside the lab, no other time center recorded anything similar. For the outside world, time flowed uninterrupted. Only the internal logs of this small laboratory filled in a tiny nightly gap by shifting backward. Some wondered what this could possibly mean, but there were no practical consequences to draw. No device failed, no process malfunctioned, no user noticed anything. The anomaly sat quietly at the margins of charts and reports. A detail lost inside time. As the years passed, the anomaly persisted. Sometimes it received closer scrutiny. Sometimes it was nearly forgotten. New employees learned of it during initial training. The training notes mentioned a known localized nighttime offset. The newcomers read the line, accepted it as a procedural quirk, and moved on. Occasionally, a night shift worker watched the anomaly happen live. The graph line advanced normally, then trembled slightly and hopped backward before continuing forward again. Inside the time room, nothing else changed. Lights glowed steadily. Fans hummed. Wall clocks ticked forward. Only the recorded digits behaved differently. This, too, was documented, though with no new wording to add. An investigation, without a conclusion. Across the years, various committees revisited the anomaly file. Some recommended a complete system overhaul. Their reports urged replacing old equipment, rewiring the entire setup, modernizing the time processing infrastructure. These proposals reached higher management, but in annual budgets, more urgent needs always overshadowed them. A harmless internal drift ranked low on any investment list. Departments relocated, new buildings were constructed, old labs shut down. Eventually, the time room was scheduled to move as well. Plans were drawn up for dismantling the equipment, instructions issued for which clocks and recorders would be transported to the new building. During this process, the stacks of anomaly reports were reviewed. Nearly all contained identical statements. Staff gathered them into a single folder. On the cover, they wrote, "Internal system drift. No operational impact." No one remembered exactly which box the folder went into or which shelf it landed on afterward. During the move, labels likely fell off or were misplaced. Some boxes may never have been opened. When the time room was reassembled in its new location, the clocks were installed, the recorders plugged in, the reference cables reattached. Initial tests showed everything working normally. A few days later, in the nighttime series, the familiar pattern reappeared. Tiny vibrations, a 2-minute backward slide, then normal flow. The technician on duty watched the screen for a while. Then he added the same line that had been written for years. 2-minute internal backward drift observed during night interval. No effect on external time reference. Monitoring continues. And while time outside the laboratory continued to move forward for everyone, inside this small room's records, each night, just for a moment, 2 minutes slipped quietly backward. No experiment stopped. No life changed. No conclusion was found. Only one of the quietest technical notes in history sank deeper into dusty archives, becoming just another forgotten page between thick binders.